radar reset.
Yeah,
we have several severe thunderstorm warnings out there right now.
Yeah, let's take a bird's eye view here. All right, before we zoom in at all, here's what we've got cooking. Here in Lexington, we've just got some very torrential rain. We haven't had any warnings. We're on the northern edge of the risk area. It's this area down here in southeastern Kentucky. This is the part of the state that has had the most warmth, highs in the low 80s, sunshine this morning, which in these types of scenarios you do not want because that adds to the instability and allows that air to rise easily and freely and get these thunderstorms going. And the dew points are high because we've had that warm front that has just arced right up to about the I-64 corridor. We talked yesterday, it was going to be a sharp cutoff and a fine line between where we are under now the enhanced risk and then down to just some general rain, maybe some thunder up here into parts of northern and northeastern Kentucky here. So running from coming out of Lincoln County there over to Mount Vernon, and then you've got a couple of other cells just out of the viewing area. But these down here, let's take a look at those down in southern Kentucky, because this is always a concern when you get these individual cells in that very warm, humid, and unstable environment. They've got nothing blocking their way, the whole atmosphere to feed off of for energy, and any of these could spike up and produce some damaging winds and also produce a potential tornado.
And that's what that Madison County cell now getting into just to the east of Richmond there. That's what that cell was. It was fired up out ahead of the main line.
Of course. And there's a more favorable environment. Jordan, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, that cell in northern Wayne County, southern Pulaski, it's been showing a little bit signs of rotation, so watching that one closely. They did have severe thunderstorm warning on it, but it's currently expired at the moment. So
yeah, so that's what you're going to get, and the timing on this is happening about as we anticipated. We figured it would be mid to late afternoon. Now the good news is once this leading edge and the frontal boundary, which is just ahead, this activity that's rolling through the bluegrass and then down here through parts of Casey County and then stretching down just north of Lake Cumberland. That's right on the nose of that area of low pressure, and there is a trailing cold front. Once that sweeps across central and into eastern and southeastern Kentucky as we progress through the rest of the afternoon, by the early evening, it may be out of here, and once it is, we're going to be in better shape because the enhanced risk of severe weather, it's not just for southeastern Kentucky. It extends to a lot of southwestern and southern Virginia, down into East Tennessee and into North Carolina. So these areas off to our east and southeast, they're going to be dealing with it for a bit longer. But we're going to be, and that's one thing Jordan is doing in addition to checking social media and getting some of those storm reports and pictures, he's watching some of these individual cells on our other radar to see if they're showing signs of rotation while Dylan and I continue to track these possible tornadic cells. This is the one that has been front and center for about the last 45 minutes. Now, we're coming up, we're at 3:02, so we've got technically another 15 minutes, but I mentioned this about a half hour ago, that this cell was moving quick enough that it would outrun the tornado warning polygon out of Madison County. So we basically about can sound the all clear. It looks like it's just about to skip the Kentucky River there along the Madison-Estill County line and be out of Madison County, and then you're in the clear as far as this individual cell. Yeah, you're going to have some heavy rain and some thunder and lightning with the main line coming through. But as Dylan mentioned, that was the concern and has been the concern all along. It's these individual cells that are popping just ahead of the main line in that favorable environment. Those are more times than not going to have more likelihood of showing some rotation. And we've still got that because you see the reds and that little spike of green there, just crossing out of Madison County into extreme northwestern Estill County.
And I will say, looking at the reflectivity, there's likely a hail core that's developing right now with this as well, so I'm going to flip that back on at the moment. But yeah, I would say that it's likely producing some large hail with this as well.
Yeah, and that's the other part of this. Of course, we concentrate on the tornado threat and the damaging wind threat. but isolated large hail definitely on the table. 9 times out of 10 in this kind of scenario, when you see a little pink spike right there, which you are in northwestern parts of Estill County, just on the other side of the Kentucky River out of eastern Madison County, that generally means you're looking at some hail within that cell. So not only do we have the possible rotation that was confirmed when it was just north of Richmond, not only from some pictures, but also on our Bluegrass Pace Care Skyview H2 camera network cam out of Richmond, which, again, very rarely do we have the opportunity to show you a live storm as it goes through, but happened to work out that way today. You've just got some moderate to heavy rain through Clay City and Stanton running along the Mountain Parkway, but the really torrential stuff, and again, the cell that has a circulation that's prompted the tornado warning until 3:30 for Estill, Lee, and Powell counties, that is coming into the northwestern part of Estill County. Irvin, yes, you're in the tornado warning polygon, and you need to stay in your safe place just to be on the safe side. But given the trajectory of this cell or the movement of it eastward, I think it's going to clip northern Estill County, cross over into Powell County, probably move just on the south side of Stanton there, and then cross over the Mountain Parkway and head out toward the Red River Gorge and Natural Bridge State Resort Park there in far eastern Powell County.
I want to try to match up the velocity here with the radar so we can kind of get a view of both when you switch between one or the other here, and we will have that for you.
So, in addition to the tornado warning, obviously we've got other things going on, and I don't know, guys in Master Control, if it's possible to put the crawl on. I know that is a little disruptive, especially with our banner. The only issue is where we're staying with these tornado warnings, and we've got a number of other severe thunderstorm warnings around the area. It's just impossible to be able to cover them all in one fell swoop.
Yeah, that's right. And this is that cell we are watching. Again, when you flip between velocity and the actual radar itself, you can see that would be the rotation just to the north of there of Irvin. And it is moving east at around 35 miles per hour. So not as fast as I think we were expecting these storms to go. But you can see just to the north of that, there's the hail core on the northern side of the storm. Meanwhile, if there is a tornado being produced, it would be south of where you are dealing with that hail. But you can see really in the last couple of scans of the radar, the hail core's really intensified a bit there.
So it's that right there, right there where you see that pink.
That darker pink, the darker purple, and the darker red there would signify extremely heavy rainfall and the threat of some hail on the northern side of that. But if there's any rotation that would produce a tornado, it would be not within that hail core. It would be just to the south of that with the way this supercell, I mean, this is a supercell, the way it's developed here and moved through the area. So, again, we're in a really bad spot for radar coverage at the moment. But
yeah, that's Jackson's.
Any rotation would be where you're seeing those reds and the greens coming together there. And we're still seeing some very strong wind gusts, likely with the downdraft of the storm as well, where we're seeing that heavier rainfall falling. And again,
and it's definitely, obviously, Dylan, not as well defined as it was just, a few minutes ago, especially on.
The terrain becomes a lot more disruptive when you get into this area, where Madison County a lot flatter. We had a great look on our Bluegrass Pace Care Skyview HD camera network. You can see that view. Not seeing it quite as well there, but is that Louisville's radar?
This is Jackson.
This is Jackson. So again, hail on the northern side of this. If there's a tornado, it would be on the southern side of this system. And again, because of the heavy rain, especially if you're on the northern side of this thing, you don't want to be outside looking at the storm because it's going to be rain wrapped. There's heavy rain, which we saw when we were looking at the camera shot in Richmond. This would be on the southern edge of it. There would be where we would be dealing with the rotation, right where Chief Meteorologist T.G. Shuck is putting that storm track on there. So we've got Haggart there at 3:10, so within the next minute and a half. Nothin there at 3:26 and Furnace at 3:27, which is a little bit further towards the east, so it gives you time to get in that safe location. Most interior room within your home, away from any doors, windows. If you have a basement in the interior, maybe below a staircase, something like that would be the best place to be. And because of this difficult terrain there, you're not going to be able to see this. This is difficult. We have spotters that are tracking the storm. This is becoming very difficult to storm spot if anyone's out looking at it. So that's why we recommend getting in that safe location if you're within that polygon or at the moment there.
So Jackson just put out an update, and they continue the tornado warning and said it was capable of producing a tornado over Hargett near Irvin, although, I mean, that's near Irvin, but obviously
It'd be to the north and the west of Irvin.
as a crow flies, that's 5 miles away, so it's just up the road. And I mentioned that earlier, that, stay in your safe place, even though I think it's going to pass. There's a little bit of an appendage, but as Jordan pointed out, they're calling for 1.5 inches possible.
Yeah, which is an increase from what it was. It was at 1 inch, so 1.5 inches is much larger hail, and that's what this is showing. And because this is near textbook supercell structure with the way this is developing. There's tornado on the southern side, hail core right there. Is that the Sprout Springs area? Is what that would be? The Sprout Springs area there.
It's extreme northern Estill County.
Yeah, extreme northern Estill County
into Powell County. So.
Yes.
The heavier rain, obviously, has come up on the Mountain Parkway there, just west of Clay City. So this cell is going to, it looks like if it keeps going the way it is, it'll impact the south side of Clay City and Stan.
And that's why this part of the storm is still included in the warning, because though the tornado's on the far southern edge of this, you don't want to be out in this heavy rain and hail anyways. So that is why that part of the storm is still included. And have they extended this warning eastward now? It appears they have now. Or they,
yeah, I think it's still... Yeah, they updated it. I don't think they added any. Let me put
the expiration date is still 3/30.
3/30, for Estill, Lee, and Pound.
And again,
northern Estill.
It's out of Madison County, even though it shows up. Remember, I mentioned earlier with the way the algorithm works with the warning system with the Weather Service, if they cancel a tornado warning less than 10 minutes before its expiration, it won't disappear until its expiration time, which is 4 minutes in Madison County, but clearly you're good.
Yeah. So again, to reset things here, if there's a tornado with this cell, it is in about 5 miles. We just showed you 5 miles as the crow flies north and west of Estill, just to the east of the Fox area there. And that is moving off towards the due east. And again, it doesn't have great structure to it in terms of velocity because it's just in a bad location to look at from a radar. This is Jackson's radar or from Louisville's radar, which is obviously much further away from the system than we are dealing with, and still several severe thunderstorm warnings also included.
Yeah, they just kicked this one out for Jackson County and Rockcastle until 4.
Jackson County and Rockcastle County through 4. This is the storm we're watching. Some rotation earlier on with this as it was much further towards the west in Lincoln County, Casey County there. No longer dealing with the rotation, but you can almost see it becoming that C shape right there. That would show some very strong wind gusts within that cell as it is pushing off towards the east. Still have some severe thunderstorm warnings on the southern side of this for Casey and Russell County, and that is through 2:30 Central, so 3:30 Eastern time there.
And let's see if there's anything. Yeah, see, and also, Dylan, what they're doing is the Weather Service in Louisville, they are trimming counties already from the severe thunderstorm watch. So here in the Bluegrass, Lexington, we're good. I think as we go through the remainder of the afternoon, the area of concern is going to be southern and southeastern Kentucky, as it was all along. This thing kind of overachieved in the sense that back toward E-Town, back toward Bardstown as well, that was kind of in that low end, level 1, marginal to slight, and we really expected the bulk of it to be in the area that has had all the sun earlier today, highs in the low 80s, dew points upper 60s to around 70, plenty of instability, which again allows that air to rise freely and easily. And you've seen the end result, a number of tornado warnings across the area. So, and Dylan may be right relative to the terrain issue, because obviously when you get in the mountains, unless it's something very unusual like it was on March 2nd, 2012, when those were textbook signatures, just the fact that we've got that little appendage here on the reflectivity, I still think we at least have some broad rotation about 5-6 miles off to the northwest of Irvin and Ravenna there. I put the ruler on it a minute ago when the Weather Service updated it. So they're going to carry this thing until the bottom of the hour. And what Dylan was popping on, he was popping on the hail core history. Is that right?
Yeah, core history just over an inch in size.
So inch plus diameter hail. And in fact, when the Weather Service updated the tornado warning for Estill, Lee and Powell County until 3:30, they mentioned 1.5-inch hail. Again, 9 times out of 10, if you've got a good solid hail core on radar, it is going to appear high on the reflectivity because obviously it's ice aloft and that has a higher reflectivity, kind of like when you're dealing with sleet in the winter. So right along the Estill and Powell County line. So we're crossing over at extreme northern Estill into far southwestern, or really western Powell County. There's Stanton. Clay City obviously is just back to the northwest. Mountain Parkway runs right along this. So it's interesting. You got the little appendage down here where the circulation could be, but then suddenly that part of the cell becoming more concerned with large hail when it comes to areas, say, on the south side of Stanton and southern Powell County, and then even over toward, if it keeps on that eastward track, the Red River Gorge area and Natural Bridge State Resort Park here in far eastern Powell County. So
yeah, we haven't seen hail signature this impressive in a while.
Yeah,
this is pretty impressive to see hail potentially that large.
Exactly. And this is classic spring in Kentucky. I mean, we talked the other day that other than that overnight event that we had March into no April Fool's Day, it was April 1st. We really haven't had a lot as far as organized severe weather, but today it is definitely front and center. So we've been on now for quite a while now. I think we went on at about 1:45. So we broke for a couple of minutes when we had a lull in the tornado warnings. And obviously that's what's going to happen. Now we're going to see what the Weather Service ends up doing with this here. But if the tornado warning is canceled early and none others are issued, then we'll start Good Afternoon Kentucky and go from there. But we're going to stick with this because this thing has had a history, again, of producing rotation. If you've been with us for a while, we were actually able to show you that on our Bluegrass Pace Care Skyview HD camera network out of Richmond. You could see the lowering. You could see what appeared to be a wall cloud. We had a picture from Richmond closer to that cell, and it was pretty easy to pick out where that possible rotation was. Spotter did report rotation and basically a funnel cloud, although it never reached the ground.
The National Weather Service in Jackson just said they think it's splitting now. The cell is splitting based on the environment, based on hodographs and things like that with their forecast. So the cell could be splitting apart. This, maybe why we're seeing that hail core start to fire.
Yeah, absolutely, because you see on the reflectivity, we're kind of weakening things out here, and that's, I think, one of the reasons why we lost the velocity signature a little while ago. But now the concern becomes the larger hail that I think we're getting here just off to the southwest of Stanton, just south of the Mountain Parkway. Really the heavier rain here, you're kind of catching it into Clay City, and you may even see some hail there. I'll be interested to see when we start getting a few reports. Jordan's working social media and checking Twitter and the storm reports from the National Weather Service.
They just updated the warning here, and it says that it's still continuing it through 3:30, 1.5 inches, which is ping pong ball size hail, was located near the Hardwick or near Irvin, moving east at 40 miles per hour. So still the same wording as it was last time. It's to the north of Irvin.
Yeah, the cell is probably about 2 or 3 miles up the road from downtown Irvin. It's just, you can take that back road to get over to the Mountain Parkway out of Irvin that zigzags through that southwestern part of Powell County. Been on it a few times running up towards Stanton, and you can catch the Mountain Parkway there as well. But this is moving into Stanton, so I really think if you're in Stanton proper, just to be on the safe side, if you've got a garage and it's open and your car's outside, might want to get it in. Again, just to be on the safe side, if we're seeing the potential of upwards of 1.5 inches hail, especially upwards of ping pong size hail, that can obviously create a few issues.
Latest couple scans are not showing that intense core that we were seeing previously. I was just going to say, when it sweeps by, you can see it a little bit, but notice how it's red and it's not pink. The pink is generally that signature for large hail, which, if you've been watching anything with the weather in other parts of the country, they've had a number of hail events out in the Central Plains over the last few weeks. Now, it's nothing of that magnitude, but man, oh man,
we pay all the attention, obviously, to the tornado, the straight line wind, the flooding, but hail can really, really cause some issues. If you were around, it's been nearly 20 years ago, in early June in 2005, we had a hail event here in Lexington right at the rush hour during the week at 5 o'clock. And for about the next 6 months here in Lexington, you could drive anywhere and hear hammering on rooftops from so many roofs being damaged by that. So not saying that this is the scenario, but you can't underestimate the potential for large hail in this kind of scenario. So we're hanging on to the tornado warning here until the bottom of the hour. You got heavy, heavy rain now. Folks that are coming, say, from out of Camden, Wolfe County, heading back to the west and the northwest, running through Powell County along the Mountain Parkway, it's going to be either pull off or wipers on high. And you got to watch for ponding of water on the roadway. You want to slow down. If you don't have to go out, obviously don't, because this is going to be producing some very, very torrential rain. Then I want to do a little broader view on things. And also I want to, if we can, if you can click around on my show, just check temperatures and dew points and see what we're dealing with. We got a few of those individual cells. In fact, you see down here, it looks like...
My bad.
No, you're fine. We got severe thunderstorm warning. I was just pointing that out. All right, you can see what's happening here and why this area of southern and southeast Kentucky is primed for this severe weather threat to continue until we get the passage of that low and the cold front later on in the afternoon. It's 64 in Frankfort. It's 67 here in Lexington, yet it's 79 in Richmond. And look at London and Somerset and Williamsburg and Hazard, areas that have not seen any rain. You've had a lot of sunshine this morning. Now, what about the dew points? If you can click to the next one. All right, 70 dew point in Somerset, 65 in London, 68 in Monticello. We talk about the dew points all the time in the spring and the summer. Great measure of the amount of moisture in the atmosphere. Anytime you get in the upper 60s to around 70, it feels like you're summer muggy. So there's a lot of available moisture. There's a lot of available warmth, and the sun, not a good thing on a day like today. That just stirs the atmosphere and creates more instability. And that's why, even though we may be seeing a little bit of a lull, let's keep our fingers crossed that the majority of these are severe thunderstorm warnings if we see them at all. But that's something we're going to have to be dealing with. Now, if we can pop back to the radar and kind of broaden it out a little bit, I want to hit on a couple of those little individual cells while we play this thing out. Looks like a new severe thunderstorm warning just came out for Pulaski County over into western and northern Laurel County. I just saw that pop up. It hasn't hit the queue here, but and this is for the leading edge of this squall line here that has been working its way across central and now moving into south central and southern Kentucky. So severe thunderstorm warning until 4 o'clock, Laurel, Pulaski County, Jackson County, Rockcastle County, severe thunderstorm warning. Anywhere along this line here, a couple things can happen. You get damaging winds in excess of 60 miles per hour, and just given the environment, you can get these little notches here or there, and you can have what we've been having much of the afternoon, the potential of an isolated tornado spinning up. Generally low end, but remember that our straight line wind damage can also produce winds of a low end tornado as well. So you need to definitely take these warnings seriously. The cells that we really have to keep an eye on, I mentioned this one where it's about to move out of eastern Harlan County, I think. It's going to scoot over into Wise County there in southwest Virginia over toward Big Stone Gap. It's right along US 119, Cumberland southward. It's those individual cells, like there's even a little appendage there. That's going to be out, basically out of the state soon. Jump back a little broader, Dylan. It's these individual cells right here, the one right near the radar site in Jackson, the one that is along the Jackson County and Clay County line. These are the cells that can really become problematic. They're out on their own, and they're just out ahead of the main line of storms, and that's what we saw with the Richmond storm. It was an individual cell that developed right on the nose of that squall line, and it spun up a little tornado. So McKee, you've still got the main stuff coming to you, but we've got this isolated action, Boonville and Owsley County, right along the Clay and Jackson County line. along 421. There's a little community called Egypt right there. Kid you not. Southern part of Jackson County, right along 421, that'll run you down to Manchester where you can catch the Hal Rogers Parkway. But that cell, that's what we got to watch. And another one here along the Lee and Breathitt County line. All these individual cells have the potential of doing what this one has as well, because the main line's back here, but this one is still out on its own. The hail core's gone because we don't see that pink anymore, but we still have that appendage on the reflectivity, not even showing the velocity data. Now, we haven't checked that in a while, and I think the other issue that we may be running into, Dylan, is the fact that, look at the radar site here in Jackson. It is covered with heavy rain and thunderstorms, so a lot of that activity may be impacting the intensity and its ability to get a good bird's eye view of what's going on with that fairly healthy cell sitting right over the radar site there off to the northeast of Jackson.
Obviously there's not a hole where the radar site is. That is just the angle of the radar that is pushing
correct.
Up, so don't be confused by that.
And remember, the radar's at the ground, the beam is aloft. So when we're showing you this circulation, unless it's within a few miles of the radar, you're generally shooting anywhere between 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 feet or more. Farther away from the radar it is, farther up you're going, but you don't necessarily have to just have the rotation aloft to get it down to the ground. We got awfully close, it looks like, when this thing was coming across Richmond, the north side of Madison County. And this is the same cell that did that. So this thing's been hanging, it's been holding its own.
And we did get a hail report out of northwestern Estill County.
So right up in
Harris
here.
Ferry Road, a penny-sized hail.
Yeah, so it was obviously kicking out a little bit of hail a little bit ago. Switch over to velocity and let's take a look at this thing and see where we are. I mean, it's funny. It almost looks like there's two.
Yeah.
You got a little bit of rotation just on the southwest side of Stanton, and then this may be contaminated. Oh, how about that? Right on cue. Another tornado warning now until 4:15. So, given the history of this, we're going to need, and of course, with it being the heart of our viewing area, we're going to stick with this thing as we go through. And they're playing it safe because given
it looks
the
much
hail,
better
and
on Louisville's radar.
And when we popped the velocity up just a minute ago, these things can cycle as well. They can tighten up and then they can kind of go away for a minute and then kind of refire. Keep in mind, you got a southerly to southwesterly flow, so there's nothing south of this storm to not just leave the door wide open to just feed the storm. And so it appears to be wrapping up again. So our signature looks a whole lot better. Literally, the rotation is right along the Powell-Estill County line. Is this Louisville or Jackson?
This is Louisville's radar. Jackson's still got all that disruption. I think because the storm's basically right on top of it right
and it's contaminated because there's a storm right over the radar, but it's still picking it up.
Yeah.
And I think once the cell here over the radar in Jackson clears, we're going to get a whole lot better look at it, because I think as a crow flies, that can't be any more than maybe, 1,500 feet tops.
Yeah.
Shooting up into that storm.
But I just want to show this, too, because once you set this in motion for this cell, you can really see what kind of cycle it went through here, where it went from that one little appendage we were seeing to it kind of tightened back up in the last couple stands.
Back it back up a little bit again to where it was in Madison County. Just on the reflectivity, you see the appendage, and then when it gets to the border, it kind of goes away, and then we shift our focus to the hail core. Now the focus is back on the potential for the tornado. So Breathitt County, parts of Estill County, Powell, and Wolf until 4:15. So essentially, much of Wolf County, Campton included, small part of Lee County here, Beattyville, you're good. Far eastern Estill County, Irvin, you're in the clear as far as the tornado threat. And then Powell County. This thing is making a beeline with its eastern trek toward Natural Bridge State Resort Park there in eastern Powell County and the Red River Gorge area, which bleeds over into western Wolf County. So we're going to hang with this thing because, again, it is cycling back up, it appears. And this basic supercell, because it's out on its own, has had a history of producing rotation, confirmed rotation, funnel clouds back around Richmond. And even though we're getting into the mountainous area, we've seen obviously in the past that it can cause some problems. So we're moving south, a little more southeast now.
Yeah, I'd say going right along with where that radar with where they oriented the warning to.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I noticed it was a little bit. It's been trending that way because we were going kind of due east, and we talked about how the entire squall line was moving southeast while the individual cells moved to the east. But now everything is beginning, especially these individual cells, they're beginning to take more of a southeasterly turn. So some of the communities here, the community of Pilot, which is not far from where that cell is, it looks like that's just right into Powell County. It's just on the border there with Estill and Powell County. Zoe, I think, there in northern Lee County. And then Campton, of course, the county seat of Wolfe County, that's at 3:54. So you got about 25 minutes. Hurst, which is along the Wolfe-Breathitt County line, that's 4:01. And then it'll eventually be working farther east. So this thing has held its own because it really got wrapped up west and northwest of Richmond. So it's been going on for a good solid hour now.
I'd also like to point out that the storm that is just north of Manchester has a tornado possible tag on it. It's severe thunderstorm warning, but they're monitoring it.
All right, let's take a look at that one, Dylan, if you want to go down to the south here.
Yep.
And check that one out. So don't forget, we've got Mount Vernon into western Jackson County coming up top of the hour. Severe thunderstorm warning. Don't want to forget about you folks in Pulaski County and western Laurel County. You got a severe thunderstorm warning until 4 o'clock. But the cell that we're keeping an eye on, and here's what Jordan was talking about. Again, we got all those storms around the radar site in Jackson. This is our closest view, but you can see a little bit of red and green side by side, and that is your signature. So the Weather Service will do this many times. They'll put a tornado warning or tornado possible wording onto the severe thunderstorm warning when they're seeing some broader rotation, and that's what they're seeing here. Because you see Jackson, and you kind of see there's a radar site right there, and the sweep's about to come around. So
yeah, they did tag this with a considerable severe thunderstorm warning, so 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts.
Yeah. So what's the reflectivity look like on that? Switch back over, and we mentioned these individual cells out on their own, but for the possibility of tornadoes. But you can also get some big time wind with them. And here you go. Individual cell out on its own, broad rotation, and just because it's not part of the squall line does not mean it does not have the capability of producing, as Dylan said, upwards of 70-mile-per-hour winds. So Oneida there in northern Clay County, Burning Springs, you're going to see some activity. Of course, Annville there in southern Jackson County along US 421 west of you. You just got some stuff in the area, but the cell that we're concerned with looks like it's going to clip extreme southern part. I think that's Owsley County there. Yes. As it moves eastward, and then eventually get into far western Perry County here. I was going to say that we don't even have on the queue. Yeah. It's picking up the other ones. It's not,
and it's shaped really awkwardly as well. It's not typical.
So this warning here includes northern Clay, southern parts of Owsley County, southern Breathitt, western Perry, and northern Leslie County.
Yeah, and this one here as well with this, you kind of see the bow echo. There for Estill, Jackson, Lee, and Owsley.
Right where this is jutting out north of McKee across the northern part of Jackson County, that leading edge right there, you could probably see 60, 70-mile-per-hour winds. I mean, it will blow through very quickly. And remember, with the straight line wind damage, that's why the Weather Service goes out and does site surveys when damage is reported after days like today, because they have to determine based on a set of parameters whether it was straight line wind damage or usually in this case a low-end tornado. So just because you're not under a tornado warning and you're only under a severe thunderstorm warning, which if Dylan zooms out, you see we got a fistful of them across the area. That one about to move out of parts of Harlan and Letcher County.
Yeah, and the southern edge of that kind of what's going through Rockcastle, Jackson County area right now, it just got a considerable tag as well, so 70 mile per hour.
Yeah, see, you can see that bowing out right there. Notice what it's doing is it's getting a little push back behind it and bowing it out. So that's why it's jutting out there north of McKee, and then you see it kind of snaking down into literally east of Mount Vernon, a lot of eastern and southern Rockcastle County, just torrential rain. Not a fun drive along I-75 around Livingston. Ironically, nothing in northern Laurel County yet. It will be on top of you soon. But I would say north of McKee here, this part of it right here, that's going to possibly produce some wind damage. And the ironic thing, I was going to say it looks like it's about to outrun the severe thunderstorm warning box, but no, there it is. That goes until 4:15.
There's a lot of warnings next to each other.
And they're overlapping each other as well. So this cell here along the Owsley-Clay County line, again, it's a severe thunderstorm warning heading over toward Buckhorn Lake State Park with that east to southeast movement into western Perry County. That has some broad rotation with it. And you notice how it is not too far from the radar, so that beam is not shooting too far up. And then we still have the tornado warning. Let's go back and revisit the
and
one.
We're getting some reports from the National Weather Service, some damage reports. One out of the gravel switch area in Marion County.
That was a cell back into Marion County. It's right on the Marion-Boyle County line that we were tracking.
And that Lincoln County, same cell there with tree and power line down on Danville Avenue between Portman Avenue and Maxwell Street. So that's the cell from earlier.
So that's the kind of thing that you're going to see as we progress probably over the next, maybe 2-3 hours or more, I think, into the early evening. Now, just looking at the reflectivity signature here, you see the little hook, the little appendage here, right along the Estill and Powell County line. It is now east of Stanton. This is the area, like the leading edge of this is about to cruise right over Natural Bridge State Resort Park and then eventually move into western Wolfe County, and that is where a lot of the Red River Gorge is located. But that little appendage right there, take a look at the velocity and see if it's
I can flip it with
better.
the same camera view right on top of that, so we can get a look at velocity there. So there's what it looks like. 1 second, we can get them lined up. And there's what it looks like on the radar itself, reflectivity there, and that is what it looks like on velocity. Again, not a great signature there. Let me switch over to the Louisville radar and get a better idea.
So that's a better look. Greens and reds, we've said it many times, it's an explanation as opposed to just looking like a Christmas tree and wondering what you're looking at. This is the velocity data, beauty of Doppler radar. Let you look inside the storm and see what the winds are doing relative to the radar site, which in this case is back to the west. You see the legend up here. Anything in red is going away. Anything in green is going toward. You get those side by side, that's a rotation signature. Doesn't matter whether it's at ground level or aloft. Obviously, with the updraft, it's rotating updraft, and it can make it to the ground, and we've been awfully close. Ironically, with this particular cell, when it was back over Madison County a little while ago, we showed you pictures, and we were able to show you on our Bluegrass Pace Care Skyview HD Camera Network camera out of Richmond and EKU. We showed you as it passed just north of the city, started in the northwest and eventually moved to the northeast. You can see the lowering of that and nearly made it to the ground, but so far haven't seen anything like that. But there's your circulation. Stanton, Clay City, you're good. This thing's sitting right over Natural Bridge State.
They trimmed out the warning too.
What's that?
They just trimmed the warning.
Yeah, they
out so
trimmed it back. So Stanton, Clay City, Powell County, you're good. Much of Estill County, you're in good shape. And I really think, even though we've got a small part of Lee County in this, and then down into parts of Breathitt County, it's going to be eastern Powell County and then into Wolfe County. So essentially the circulation is right there at the Natural Bridge State Resort Park exit on the Mountain Parkway. There's Slade, so I mean literally it's almost right over top of where the resort park is. You and then you run up the hill here and cross over into the western part of Wolfe County. As you climb that big hill on the Mountain Parkway and cross over into Wolfe County, this thing's going to slide right across it. And with its east to southeast movement, it's heading right toward the city of Campton, the county seat of Wolfe County. But this warning that goes until 4:15. So if you're in Wolfe County, really anywhere in Wolfe County, because it's not in Wolfe County yet, it's about to cross the border out of Powell County into your area. Go to a basement, you know the safety rules. If you don't have a basement, an interior room, the lowest level of your home, preferably a closet, a bathroom, you want to get yourself away from exterior windows and walls. And even if you're under a severe thunderstorm warning, same drill. You want to be inside. Don't want to be by exterior windows or walls, because any of these storms, especially with the squall line moving through and the individual cells, have the potential of producing some straight line wind damage. And we have seen that already. We had the cells that prompted the first initial tornado warnings that we had back into parts of Marion County and Washington County, and then running over to Boyle and Lincoln County. And that was, about 2 o'clock, over an hour and a half ago, and we just got some damage reports.
And we did get a damage report out of Madison County as well from that same storm when it pushed through.
Which is this one.
Yes, which is that one near the Red House area, 1 mile south-southwest. For the fire department, reports a tree down on Red House Road, so from that same cell.
So even if that funnel or rotation didn't manage to reach the ground, there were strong enough winds to do some tree damage there. We mentioned Red House a number of times as it was going across northern Madison County when they were under that tornado warning between about 2:50 and 3:15, even though it was long gone by then. So that's kind of the moral of the story, and that's one of the reasons that we stay with these tornado warnings. Yeah, they're out in more rural areas, but in this particular case, you've got Campton, which is the county seat of Wolfe County. You've got the Mountain Parkway that runs right through the heart of Powell County and Wolfe County and points eastward. Very heavily traveled, of course, a main thoroughfare to get you from the bluegrass out into eastern Kentucky, and you've got a potential tornadic thunderstorm cell rolling right over top of that right now.
I'm going to flip back to reflectivity because I think it just has a better look at the regular radar of this system, because it's still not getting a great look from that Jackson radar in terms of seeing the
and I still think you're getting a little contamination because you see the radome down here just northwest of Jackson, and it's got some heavier rain and storms in the area, and that almost kind of blocks. Yeah, it can punch through it, but sometimes it can contaminate the view that you get of some of these cells, especially when you're trying to get down in the weeds with them. So till 4:15 here, still have the ongoing tornado warning. We still have that notch, a little bit of an inflow, it looks like, right around Natural Bridge State Resort Park, and then the heavy rain has spread into parts of the Red River Gorge as we get into western Wolfe County, and this is going to continue to move eastward here. So
Campton, I mean, you're going to be just kind of really in between the heavy rain and where we could see, some rotation as well.
Yeah, it's going to be close. And again, anywhere in Wolfe County, just be in your safe place. Yep. Always better safe than sorry, because even if you don't see a tornado, when this thing comes rolling through, you're going to have winds in excess of 55, 60 miles per hour or greater. And with this type of scenario today, and that's why they'll do site surveys, probably a number of them where we have damage reports today, because it needs to be determined whether we had a low-end tornado or just straight-line wind damage. So just because you're not under a tornado warning does not mean that you may not get some wind damage. Even if you are under a tornado warning like you are here in Wolfe County, you need to be inside in your safe place. Campton front and center, Hazel Green, you're probably at least going to get some pretty torrential rain. So the leading edge of this thing, you got Rogers here. That's just right off the Mountain Parkway exit as you make your way toward Campton there. The Mountain Parkway just snaking there west of Campton. So, and then of course 15 branches off takes you into southern Wolfe County and down toward Jackson, and then the Mountain Parkway as they continue on the construction to expand that to 4 lanes all the way across the board. But just entering the northwestern part there, you can see the Mountain Parkway. It is, and if you've taken that road, you know you get to the county line there with Wolfe and Powell County, and then you make that long, big, curvy drive down the hill as you're heading back toward the Slade exit where you get off to go to Natural Bridge. So there's Slade, Natural Bridge is just south of it. There's your circulation. So this is just going to literally pass very, very close to Natural Bridge, and the heaviest rain now is overspreading areas of the Red River Gorge. So not a good time to be out down there at all.
And we're starting to get some power outage reports here. Rockcastle County now over 2,000 customers without power in Rockcastle County with that cell that's to the south.
Yeah, so I'm going to hit a few of these cities here as far as naming them off, and then I want to check the other severe thunderstorm warnings because, again, we got a lot of ground to cover here and don't want to forget about anyone. So Natural Bridge State Resort Park, it's on top of you right now. Slade, you're getting the heaviest rain, the potential for the tornado along Kentucky 11. Kentucky 11, you come off the exit there, and where the Junior Williamson rest stop always was, and you go down Kentucky 11 through Zachariah, and that will weave you down toward Beattyville. But this is the section toward Rogers and along Kentucky 11. That is where the potential rotation is eventually going to move and then cross 15 and head right toward Campton if it stays on that current path. Even if we don't have any rotation, you're going to see some very strong winds. So just, even though you're under a tornado warning anywhere in Wolfe County, just consider yourself under at least a severe thunderstorm warning just based on even some of the winds that you're going to get on the leading edge. So Campton, High Falls, Vortex, ironically, Pine Ridge, and then areas up toward Hazel Green. You got Granny there, just all these small communities in Wolfe County. So from there, we want to broaden things out and show you what's happening across southern Kentucky and south central Kentucky because you see a lot going on, a lot of heavy rain-producing thunderstorms, just a fistful of severe thunderstorm warnings. You've got Jackson and Rockcastle going until 4 o'clock. Looks like we got a new one here for Whitley County, parts of southern Laurel County, and into Knox County.
It's a tornado possible tag as well.
And there's a tornado possible tag. And you want to know why? Notice how it's out on its own, and it's just ahead of that leading edge of the jagged squall line that is working across south central Kentucky. So any of these that we see popping out ahead. So Corbin, it is right to your west. Now it looks like it's turning to the southeast a little bit, as, of course, Corbin is in that tri-county area of Whitley, Knox, and Laurel. But I really think the bulk of it is going to be probably more so on the south side of Corbin here. It's going to be north of Williamsburg. You see a little bit of darkening there with the green relative to the rotation. Again, we still could be getting some contamination. And remember, we're a little farther away from the radar, so it is pointing a bit higher. But severe thunderstorm warning, Knox, Laurel, Whitley counties. It's basically central and northern Whitley, western parts of Knox County, Barberville, you're not in the polygon, and then the southern part of Laurel County, south of London. So if you're in extreme southern Laurel County, you're in this. This is, even though it's just a severe thunderstorm warning, you can almost see, again, a little bit of an appendage there or a bit of a hook. And that's what these individual cells out ahead of the main line have been exhibiting and will continue to exhibit until we get this whole mess out of here. Because this area, again, we showed you the temperatures a little while ago. They were in the low to mid 80s. Dew points were in the mid to upper 60s, even 70. They've had sunshine this morning. That sun adds to the instability and allows these to develop pretty easily and intensify. I'll be interested to see if we get a hail out of this one too, especially with that darkening there of the reflectivity.
The warning says hail up to an inch size.
Okay, so you could see inch size hail out of that, maybe quarter or better. But we'll keep an eye on that one.
And I will say they turned this to a severe thunderstorm warning with the tornado warning we've been tracking there for Breath at Estill.
So they're dropping the tornado warning. Is that or are they letting it go?
No, they threw the severe thunderstorm warning on top of it.
Oh, so it's on top of it. So the tornado warning continues for that part of the cell, but it's literally what we were talking about a couple of minutes ago. This leading edge right here north of Campton, that in and of itself could produce wind gusts over 60 miles per hour, maybe even 65 to 70. And that's why I mentioned Campton and Hazel Green and anywhere into Wolfe County, basically. But now it extends farther into the western part of Wolfe County, and it touches barely a part of Breathitt County and looks like into just a small, maybe even catching Morgan County a little bit there. But really, I think the biggest concern, especially, I think the orientation of that line, Dylan, there, it's going to have a more southeasterly track. So
Absolutely.
It could be kind of a 1-2 punch. You got the appendage there on the southwest side of it, and then you've got the threat for straight line winds coming in from the northwest.
And I will say a lot of these severe thunderstorm warnings have the tag for considerable, so 70 mile per hour winds, which is greater than your typical severe thunderstorm warning.
So a couple things at play. Not your garden variety severe thunderstorm warnings, especially with these individual cells that if you've been watching us for the last couple of hours, that was our bigger concern, even beyond the main squall line that is now moving into southern and eastern Kentucky, given the environment. And once these things got cranked up, not only can they produce considerable wind damage, but there is the possibility of a spin-up tornado within many of them. The Weather Service a lot of times will give the possible tornado wording tag within the warning. So you see severe thunderstorm warning and you think, oh, it's just straight line wind damage potential. Not today.
That latest update to that severe thunderstorm warning that we're looking at right now for Breathitt, Clay, Leslie, and Perry counties, it says it's now the highest hail, the largest hail that we've had. So 1 3/4 inches, so that is a golf ball size hail with this.
So you can see golf ball sized hail out of this that is in the northern part of Clay County there, extreme southern Owsley County, and then I mentioned it earlier, Buckhorn Lake State Park. This is going to come rolling into western Perry County. Hazard obviously well off to the east, but running down 28 Buckhorn, the community of Soul there, it's kind of right along the Perry-Leslie County line there. Everything just kind of comes together. Krypton, Chavies, it'll all eventually come your way. But this cell you see is kind of out on its own. It curves back a little bit toward the northern part of Owsley County. But I think this leading edge here, Buckhorn Lake State Resort Park, it's about on top of you. So really take any of these severe thunderstorm warnings that we have. Usually, now we still have that ongoing tornado warning, but usually
they did cancel it.
But they did cancel it. Usually we handle these with a crawl, but in this particular case, just keep in mind that all of these severe thunderstorm warnings, and if you even pull out a little farther, and if you want to take the auto cue. So we'll just kind of look at it from a bird's eye view. So essentially, you've got this cell coming into Wolfe County. You've got the one here east of Jackson. Looks like that's heading into Floyd County, out of Breathitt County. It's northwest of Hazard. Boonville, severe thunderstorm warning. London, Somerset, Corbin, all under severe thunderstorm warnings, and especially these three cells, the one here east of Jackson, the one that's coming up on Buckhorn State Resort Park, and then this one here that is just to the southwest of Corbin. Those are the three that I think if we get any spin-ups and any additional tornado warnings, they'll come from there. But that's not to say that along the main squall line here, it's jagged, it's bowing out, so you're going to have the potential of some straight line wind damage. Here in Lexington, we're good.
Yeah, you want to see, they just updated the Storm Prediction Center, I think we can give some all clear to a lot of areas.
Yeah, I was just going to say, they've got to be trimming some counties down.
And this is the latest outlook, and I can also set up the watch
so
if you would like as well.
Let's show you this. Here's the latest outlook. Obviously, the threat really diminishing here in the Bluegrass, and you see the concentration with the level 3 in those areas about where, again, the squall line's back here, and then you got the individual cells down here. So once that's clear, which honestly, we're coming up on 4 o'clock here, this thing should be out of here by, I would think, 6:30, 7 o'clock, given the rate that it's going. Now, as far as the severe thunderstorm watch, which goes until 8 o'clock, I think we've got that in there as well. They're trimming counties back. Before, this extended as far north as Lexington and then back toward E-Town. I think next update, they're going to get rid of Fayette County and running down the I-64 corridor because we're done. The concentration is going to be down here across southeastern Kentucky. So let's pop back to the radar. So I guess we got to figure out what we want to do here, considering we're 6 minutes till the top of the hour. We're just going to stick with it here. And if we get no more tornado warnings, then, of course, we will go back to regular programming. Lee and Haley coming up at the top of the hour at 4 o'clock. And obviously, we'll cut back in if needed. And then we'll have, all the updates coming up at 5 o'clock. Let's keep our fingers crossed that we don't have to cut in. But I would highly suspect, just given the environment and given what we've got going on, that we'll have to stick with it. And again, we've basically blown out Good Afternoon Kentucky, as no pun intended we expected to, given what we've got going on. Notice the individual cell there east of Pikeville. Severe thunderstorm warning for that one. So this area
that was just issued with a tornado possible tag. So
yeah. So any of these here looks like Morgan. No, there's Morgan County, Paintsville, Syersville, Magoffin County. So this one here that is that's coming out of Breathitt County into extreme southern Magoffin County and then over toward Prestonsburg, like all the little individual cells, they look like they're trying to get a little bit of a notch on the back edge. Here's
this
the one
especially
just pouring in Corbin right now, going down. I mean, coming out of Corbin around exit 29 there and then point southward north of Williamsburg. It's raining so hard, I'm sure people are pulling off of the interstate. Because
and the rotation on that is starting to strengthen up a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if they went with the tornado warning at some point. No word on it they are yet, but rotation right over Corbin really starting to tighten up.
Yeah, and the issue you get, again, trying to pick these, especially, sometimes, you can have the more of a lighter green and a darker green, and that's shooting aloft in the storm. So it's not that signature that we showed you a little bit earlier in the afternoon. But when you've got so many other storms going on and you're shooting a good distance away, I mean, make no mistake about it, some very strong winds and a lot of heavy rain from Corbin running down I-75 north of Williamsburg. And here's the individual cell, and then you've got clusters of rain and thunder back to the west.
A couple more hail reports out of Estill County. We have both from emergency manager and from a train spotter. Near Vaughn's Mill in Powell County, we have nickel to quarter-size hail covering the ground. And then also in Estill County near northeast of Ingle, with penny-sized hail there. That's from the emergency manager.
And that was a cell that we've been tracking for the last probably hour. It's the same one that moves through Richmond, where we had the lowering and the rotation aloft. And then we showed you that hail core that was coming out of Madison and northern Estill and into Powell County. And that's the thing. As we go through the remainder of the afternoon, of course, the reports are delayed, and a lot of the pictures that are posted on social media are delayed, so we'll have some of those for you. But that does not surprise me at all with that covering the ground. And this is what is left of that cell that is now just on the north side of Campton. Behind it, we should be in, it looks like, the kind of the broken line is trying to catch up with a few of these individual cells. Now, as they come together, that could be a little bit problematic. But these areas that have not been worked over, especially Hindman, Hazard, points to the south down toward Williamsburg. Obviously, you're catching up on things in Corbin, but Manchester, you have yet to see anything. And all of these yellow polygons, these are all severe thunderstorm warnings that go until 4:15, 4:30 in some cases. So the concentration for severe weather the remainder of the afternoon and maybe part of the early evening, especially along the Kentucky-Virginia border from Pikeville running down through Whitesburg, Harlan, and Pineville and Middlesboro. That's going to be the focus here as the area of low pressure, which is moving through central Kentucky, the cold front, just out ahead of it. That's where we've gotten this squall line to go.
And a whole lot more counties taken out of the severe thunderstorm watch.
And I just mentioned that a couple of minutes ago when we showed you that. We figured that they would get the metro out of this. So your severe threat here in Lexington, really all the metro, the surrounding counties, Lexington and the metro, you're good. We're done with the severe weather threat for this afternoon and tonight. The low spinning eastward, the area of concentration, again, is going to be down to our south and east. So we're hitting the 4 o'clock hour here. We're going to send you back to regular programming with Lee and Haley. If we get any more tornado warnings, we will cut in and keep you posted. Otherwise, we'll see you coming up on ABC.